Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene for more discussion on this and some other topics. Great to have you back with us, Congresswoman.
Thanks for having me.
All right, what was your initial reaction when you heard about this armed California man arrested near Brett Kavanaugh's home in Maryland? These initial reports indicate he was angry about the leaked SCOTUS opinion on Roe v. Wade and wanted to kill Justice Kavanaugh.
I think it's awful. I feel so sorry for the Supreme Court justices and their families. These kinds of things should never happen. But I think it's important to recognize that there has been no effort to stop the protesters at the Supreme Court justices' houses since the news got leaked out from the Supreme Court. There's also been no effort to go after the person that leaked the information that they would be coming out with a ruling that would overturn Roe versus Wade. So they've left their lives in danger and kind of allowed this to happen. And just as you all showed, Congressman Jim Jordan saying that it is against federal law to protest in front of their or try to intimidate a Supreme Court justice on any type of ruling, there should have been a bigger effort by the Department of Justice to stop these protests. And thankfully, this man was arrested before he did the unthinkable. But I think we also need to recognize that the left always gives a dog whistle of violence. And Chuck Schumer is on record, on video, calling for violence, basically a dog whistle for them to come after Justice Kavanaugh and Gorsuch. He named them by name, and he said they won't even know what hit them. Was he talking about a bullet? Was he talking about a knife? What kind of attack? Clearly, he was talking about something, and some of their foot soldiers took their orders, and this man was found at Kavanaugh's house ready to kill him.
Something that you talked about a lot is we saw how quickly Nancy Pelosi and Democrats were willing to build a fence around the U.S. Capitol when they felt like their lives were in danger. But we don't see the same urgency from House Democrats when it comes to protecting these Supreme Court justices.
That's right. As a matter of fact, we don't see any urgency whatsoever from Democrat leaders like Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, and others. We don't see an effort for them to protect anyone but themselves. You know, they're willing to allow violence in our streets, riots. They cheered on and helped fund those protests, those violent protests in 2020 that left so many communities and cities burned and damaged, and over $2 billion of damage in these communities that no one has ever cleaned up and rebuilt. But yet here they are. They don't do anything to protect our Supreme Court justices, and they don't do anything to protect our kids in schools. So the Democrats show us exactly who they are. They only care about themselves, and they only care about using any means possible to make their political will happen.
We'll talk about the January 6 hearings in just a moment, but I want to talk about something else you just mentioned there, and that is the ongoing hearings on Capitol Hill today. Today we saw 11-year-old Uvalde student Mia Sorello. She is sharing her story, and everyone knows this story. They've heard it before. She covered herself in blood to survive, but here's what she said on Capitol Hill today.
I thank y'all for letting me be here and speak out, but I wish something will change, not only for our kids, but every single kid in the world, because schools are not safe anymore.
You know, Congresswoman, people might recognize that face in the background. That's Benjamin Crump, who is often around after these attacks. You know, he's profited a lot from suing municipalities after gun violence. But, you know, this, like so many other things, has been politicized. And what do you think about the decision today to call the victims of the Buffalo shooting and the Uvalde shooting? Will this do anything to solve the issue of these mass shootings?
No, and tragically not. And it's shameful to pull these families, especially an 11-year-old girl who laid there in the blood of her classmates after they had been murdered, just trying to be quiet and protect her own life. These families are in mourning. They should be left alone, not used as political props in some sort of stunt to force and persuade other members of Congress to vote for gun control in America. We don't have a gun problem in America. We have a sin problem. And no gun control law passed and signed into law and enforced will stop these things from happening because they're already illegal. So we don't need to create more laws. What we need to do is we need to come together as a nation. We need to return to God. We need to return to our foundational principles that we know protect kids. That is protecting kids the same way Nancy Pelosi protects herself in the Capitol. That's protecting kids the same way our president is protected. That is protecting kids and doing everything we can with good guys with guns who are willing to act and won't stand by like cowards. I think our children are our most important, precious resource that we have. Our children are our future. And so we should do everything we can to keep them safe at school and never, ever allow anything to happen to them or any parent to have to fear what may happen to my child when I drop them off at school in the morning or put them on the school bus. You know, we're praying for these families in Uvalde, but we also need to recognize that people are shot and killed all over the country in Democrat-controlled cities like Chicago, Atlanta, New York, Detroit, and all over the place. There is a problem in our country, and it's called murder, and it's called crime. We need prosecutors that will prosecute people and put them away in jail, not let people off like they do so many times, and like they did when it comes to Democrat violence in the streets.
We talked about this earlier this week. California has some of the most severe gun restrictions in the country, but it's also the #1 state for these mass shootings. So you see there's no correlation there between tough laws on guns and a reduction in mass shootings. Let's also move on now and talk about what we expect to see tomorrow night, these primetime January 6 hearings. Elise Stefanik, the House GOP conference chair, wrote an op-ed for the Daily Caller calling it the Democrats' one final feeble attempt to distract Americans from their abysmal performance in the majority. Is that what this is? Just a naked attempt to distract America from the issues that are affecting most of us?
Yeah, I think that's some of it, but I also think that's the Democrat playbook, and we already saw them use it to the fullest extent with the Russia hoax. This is what Democrats do. They create a show, they create basically a movie, a fictional story, and a tale they want to sell to the American people through the media, and the media does their bidding. And here they have hired a Hollywood producer to produce this show that they're going to release Thursday night to try to tell a lie about President Trump, his staff, and members of Congress like myself and other Republicans. And they're going to tell a lie about people that were there that day. Here's the real truth, and I was there, and I've already said on a witness stand, John, remember, I'm the only member of Congress that's actually had to go to trial and under oath testify about January 6th. The truth about January 6th is there was just a riot, and that's it. No one planned it, no one coordinated it, and President Trump had nothing to do with it, nor did Peter Navarro or anyone else in his staff, and no member of Congress had anything to do with it. The people that did do those things that day, they've already been charged, and some of them are rotting away in the D.C. jail. That's the truth about January 6th.